whenever.
Okay, so we've got a Expulse 4 valve here for valve clearance. Let's see what's the news. And I've done some homework on it here. But primarily when you do, you open up everything else. Open up the tank, pull off cam covers, and you open both these covers, as you call it. So if you look in here, first thing you need, of course, a bunch of tools. I have a couple of feeler gauges just because I just want to make sure that we get it right. You need a 10 spanner. You need a ratchet to move the engine around. That's a 19 that goes in here. You also need a small ratchet with this is a 10, basically to open your rocker arm nuts. I also got a very cool tool which allows you to adjust the valves, or rather the rocker arms, because this tool, otherwise you're going to use your hand. If you can find it, that's great. But we also wanted to make sure that we know what the clearances are. So on the 4 valve, the intake is supposed to be 0.08 mm and the exhaust is 0.12 mm with a plus minus 0.01 range. So firstly, what you want to do is you want to get your motorcycle to set to TDC. So what you do is you obviously have taken off the plug, and you can see these 2 marks here. It's not clear. Those 2 marks are flush with the head. What I mean by flush with the head is that if you were to sort of line this up, they look in line with the head, the case. So if I rotate this anti-clockwise, you can see the valves acting, and I come around and I kind of move it back up to where there are 2 ways to do what we can understand with timing. So one is to line up these 2 marks, and you see these 2 marks up here. Every engine is different, but that is one part. The second and the most crucial thing is to look at the way you see the mark inside this, which lines with the casing mark here. So if you see on this case, there is a mark here. This guy here lines up with that mark inside. There's a mark inside which you can probably see if it's clear enough, kind of a thing. There you go, see it? And obviously the other way to check is you can look at the piston TDC. You come around. So I've rotated this, I've taken the plug out, so you can see that this is at TDC. Obviously if I rotate it, this will start to go down, right? So that tells you that the bike is at TDC. Right, so what do we want to do? So importantly, what we want to do is, we know the clearance is supposed to be 0.08 and 0.12. On this particular motorcycle, we've already adjusted this, but I just kind of wanted to walk through this for those who might be interested in doing this yourself. It's fairly simple to do. I've got a couple of feeler gauges here. So I have got the intake is 0.08. I've got a 0.076. I want to insert this in between the rocker arm and the valve. So as you can see, I'm able to get this clear. If I wanted to adjust this, if it was loose or tight, I would open this bolt, this guy here, I would loosen it, use my cool fancy looking tool here to move this up and down to get the clearance that I want. Now, how do I ensure that this is all done right? Is I've got 0.076, I've adjusted this. Now I can also check the next size to make sure that I haven't sort of under-calculated by putting in a 0.102. So 0.076 is roughly 0.08. I don't have a 0.09, and I'm going to try and see if I can get a 0.1 in, obviously, and I cannot. That's my intake. So I know I've done this right. Now I'm going to move to the exhaust. So while the bike is at TDC, I know my clearance on the exhaust needs to be 0.12. So I do have a 0.12 feeler gauge here. So I'm going to take out the 0.12 here, which is basically somewhere here. Where is it? Oh, it's hidden. There you go. Found it. I'm going to take this 0.127. Just use a little bit of care, and you've got, see if I can sort of find a way to flashlight this here. And I'm going to insert this here, and I can see that my 0.12 goes in clean. I have done these clearances again, guys, so it's not something that, if I do want it adjusted, the same thing, I will need to open up this guy here, adjust the rocker arm, these will get adjusted, and then you tighten up these to make sure they're locked down. You rotate the engine a couple of times to make sure that we're all good, and you're done with your clearances. So it's fairly simple. You can get it wrong. A couple of tips. One is to make sure that the motorcycle, the engine's at TDC of the compression stroke. So as you can see on our 4-stroke, you've got what they call suck, squeeze, bang, blow. So we do want to make sure that it's at the compression stroke rather than at the last stroke where, you know, the valves are still open or active. Right now, both the valves are closed. The pistons at TDC, the valves are not, they don't have any pressure on them. That's kind of where you always measure clearances from. So I hope that helps. And when next time you want to do this, take a look at this reference. Hopefully it helps. Cheers.